Hi guys, and we're back. So sorry about the cancelled stream last night. I had a few technical issues that you might have heard of if you follow me on Twitter. So anyway, we're back today, and we've got a real mixed bag today. So today we're going to talk about Nintendo Switch. We're going to talk about the new X series processors. We're going to talk about the Intel Pentium G4560, which I think is probably going to take the crown as the best budget chip of all time so far. We're also going to have a look at Half-Life 3. There's been some rumors around about that. We're going to look at Nvidia Volta, and then we're going to go all the way back round to the Nintendo Switch, because I love Nintendo. I know it's probably not what a lot of people expected, but Nintendo's awesome. Here you guys, got my BB-8 full of coffee. So anyway, pardon me, let's have a look at Nintendo Switch. So it got its release date in blah 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 a few days ago. Now, I love Nintendo. Normally I wouldn't talk about something like this on the channel, but I'm kind of weighing up whether or not I'm going to buy one, so I just thought I'd talk about it a little bit. So it's going to get released in March the 3rd, 2017, which doesn't make any sort of no big surprises there from what they were talking about last year. $299 in the US, and I think it's around £279 in Britain. For other pricing in different territories, just go to Nintendo's website and they will give you the pricing there if it's up and valid at the moment. So, Nintendo Switch. Now, no matter what you think about Nintendo, and I've got reservations about the Switch for a lot of reasons, and we'll talk about those at the end of the program when we kind of talk a little bit about the technical specs. But on the face of it, I think it's quite an interesting idea. I think it's the thing they had to do. They had to kind of take what was good about all their consoles, going all the way back to classics like the NES, the SNES, the N64, which is quite possibly the best games console ever. I loved my N64. GoldenEye, slappers only, fantastic fun. The GameCube, which I think was ignored, it was a great console. I had a GameCube, and that was probably the end of my love affair with consoles. I had an Xbox 360, and I used it, but I didn't use it as much as I used my GameCube. GameCube was the end of consoles for me, and I absolutely loved it, but it kind of got ignored. And it got ignored for a lot of reasons. The media was stupid for a start. I don't know why Nintendo went with that like tiny little disc. Do you remember those? I've probably got some lying about actually. And also the games they chose to release, they were just crap. They sucked. There was no real choice, and they kind of drove what the user base they had away. Whereas this time, I think they've got an innovative product. It looks quite interesting. I think their advertising is a bit odd. I don't really get all this dancing and dressing up to play your Nintendo Switch and all that kind of nonsense. But I love the idea of the portability. I love the idea of the little controllers come off and then they become a controller each, or you can dock them when you're at home. That's all really cool. Love it. I think it's really, really good. And I love the fact that for once Nintendo have got it right, and they're actually going to be launching with a decent title at launch. There's some sort of nonsense, sort of, I don't know what you call it, some sort of party game. Don't even know what it's called. But Zelda, Call of the Wild, looks amazing. Can't wait to play it. It's been a long time coming. I'm really glad Nintendo have decided to launch this game. I think it makes total sense to have this as a launch game. So, love it. Love the Switch. Excited about the Switch. Not sure if I'm going to pre-order one yet. There's a few other reasons for that at the moment. So, that's Nintendo out of the way, guys. If you got any questions or whatever, just fire them in the chat. So now we're going to talk about this. We are going to talk about Intel's high-end desktop Core i7 7000 Skylake X and Kaby Lake X detailed launch. So apparently Skylake X and Kaby Lake X are both coming this year in 2017, round about August. Makes sense. It's when they tend to launch the enthusiast grade stuff. However, this time around it comes not only with a new platform in the form of X299, but it also comes with a new socket in the form of LGA 2066. Now, from the get-go, I'm going to put my cards on the table, and I'm going to say I am even less excited about this launch than I was about the Kaby Lake launch. I do not know what Intel's marketing guys are doing at the moment. I have no idea what they're smoking, what they're doing. I don't know why they're doing a Skylake launch with Kaby Lake. They should just roll it all into Kaby Lake and be done with it. I don't really see the benefit to this over what I'm running Broadwell E, or even over Haswell E. Like the 5820K is still an amazing chip, and the 6800K is a really good chip. But anyway, we'll scroll through it. They're going to release it because they've got to release something every year. So we'll just whiz down through all this TDP nonsense, which really doesn't make much difference because it's still 14 nanometers, like Broadwell E is. So here we go. This is the table that really matters. So let's go away. Let's go along here. So Broadwell E, that's what I'm on. 49 nanometer, blah 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 blah. All this stuff down here. I've got a 6800K, so I've got 28 Gen 3 lanes. So I'm assuming that what WCCF Tech have done here is these are the projected high-end chips. Okay, so that's why it's 44 Gen 3 PCIe lanes and 46. So let's have a look at Skylake X. Okay, so Skylake was the last generation. Kaby Lake's the new generation, if you can call Kaby Lake a generation. It's, in my view, Kaby Lake is not a generation. It's basically an optimized version of Skylake. That's it. They should have rebranded Kaby Lake as Skylake something else, because calling it an architecture is just a joke, because there is no IPC gain. Anyway, I've talked about that in the past, guys, but it just pisses me off. So let's have a look at these anyway. So what are you going to get? You're going to get your standard fare. You're going to get in the Skylake X, you're going to get an i7 7000, 10 cores, 20 threads. Let's face it, no one's going to buy that. And then Kaby Lake X, 14 nanometers, i7 7000 series again. Interesting, you're going to get a 4-core, 8-thread chip with 8 megabytes level 3 cache and 46 Gen 3 PCIe lanes. Why anyone would buy this rather than just buying a 7700K is beyond me. Because if you need 46 PCIe lanes, you're not going to be running a 4-core processor. You know what I mean? You're going to be running at the minimum something like I'm running, like a 6-core 12-threaded processor. So this SKU to me, this 4-core 8-thread SKU here makes no sense to me. I don't think anyone's going to buy it. I really don't understand what Intel are doing here. But they have a commitment to make an enthusiast grade platform now, because they've been doing it for a number of years. I don't think there's a Xeon equivalent to this Kaby Lake X part. And I'm not surprised, because why would there be? But so anyway, going on to Skylake X, which looks a bit more reasonable. 10 cores, 20 threads. So I think that'll have the same split as Broadwell E has had. So I think it's going to go 10 cores, 8 cores, 6 cores. Interesting here that they're listing the level 3 cache as 8 megabytes on the Kaby Lake 4-core, and they're listing it as 13.75 on the 10-core compared to the 25 megabytes on the Broadwell E chip. It kind of looks like they're going backwards, because it's from Gulftown. It's just been going up the level 3 cache. But anyway, I could be wrong. This could all be nonsense. It's WCCF Tech, but generally I think they get stuff right. So let's see, what else do you get that's new? So like I say, you get some extra PCIe lanes, so you get some extra bandwidth for whatever. Don't really see the point in that as a gamer, because most people are running one graphics card now. So unless you're running tons of NVMe storage in RAID and then backing it up to more NVMe storage, possibly on a virtual layer, I don't see the point in having that. You're never going to use it as a gamer, but so nice to have. You get a new chipset, and you get a new socket. And you also get native DDR4 2667 support, which to me is not really a big deal. I don't have that, but my memory's running at 26. In fact, my memory's running at 3000 megahertz, so who cares? Um, where do I think this is going to appeal? I don't think this is going to appeal to people like me. I don't think it's going to appeal to many of the people in my audience, enthusiasts out there. Just for the simple reason that I really don't think you're going to get much of a bump over the 5820K and the 6800K. I just can't see there being a huge bump. I mean, I know that Kaby Lake has really high clocks, so people might expect Kaby Lake X to have really high clocks and Skylake X to have better clocks than Broadwell, but the fact is that getting good clocks out of a 4-core chip and getting good clocks out of a 6-core or an 8-core or a 10-core chip, no matter how good your process is a totally different kettle of fish. It's really hard to get high overclocks on every single core. And I mean, I know people say that Broadwell E is a bad overclocker, but my chip's sat at 4.5 gigahertz at 1.35 volt now. So I don't think that's a bad overclock. I think if you were to move to, say, Skylake X on a 6-core chip, and you were getting to like 4.7 gigahertz, I would say, is that worth going out and spending the money on a new chip, a new motherboard, a new memory maybe? Probably not. I don't think there's enough of a performance bump there. I really don't know what Intel are doing this year. I mean, their releases have been more and more disappointing in the kind of gaming mainstream and the enthusiast level. It's almost like AMD and Intel have kind of swapped roles, whereas it used to be AMD that were really disappointing all the time, and all the buzz seems to be around AMD just now. And rightly so, because they're bringing something to market that is exciting and is probably going to push pricing in the right way given their historical pricing. So yeah, Intel need to be careful, because I get their business model is they need to release something every year. They're into this because they've been doing it for so long now that they're almost, their hands forced. They have to release a product to market every year. They have to release, whether they call it a new architecture or whatever, or if it's a Xeon refresh like the E-chips used to be. I'm not sure how keen I am on this X for extreme. I mean, no matter how good a CPU is, it is not extreme. It doesn't go bungee jumping or any kind of extreme stuff. I much preferred the E for enthusiasts, which kind of describes me, rather than the CPU I'm buying. So I don't know. Maybe that's just a weird thing that I've got. But anyway, I really don't know where they're going with this. I mean, like here, the Skylake X 10 core is sitting here at like $1,500, which is a reduction from $1,700. And I mean, this is a guessed price, but I would have thought they'll probably reduce their price because of what AMD's doing. So, but even having said that, $1,500, who's got $1,500 to spend on a CPU? I mean, certainly not a gamer. None of the people out there that are watching this are going to be buying a 10-core, 20-threaded chip. So, yeah, those 6 cores, that's where it's at for me. I think most people on the enthusiast level are running 6-core 12-threaded chips. So I think that's the one to look out for. Anyway, guys, that's enough of my rant about Intel. So, from really bad Intel to what I think is really good Intel. So this is the Intel G4530, is it? Yeah, G4560, a little Pentium, and this thing is just having an amazing time online at the moment. So it's dual core with hyper threading. You can't overclock it. It's clocked at 3.5 gigahertz out of the box. It's on LGA 1151. But the best thing about this is here in the UK, this is £65. Now you couple this with a really kind of budget end H110 board, because you don't need to pay more for overclocking. And then get some DDR, so for DDR4, so maybe for like £150, £160, you've got a really good bare bones unit. And I've seen some benchmarks with this little chip and like an RX 470, so a real budget system. And I'm telling you, this thing has got some real stomping power. It's like popular titles at 1080p on medium settings or high settings, and it's over 60 FPS. And like I say, this little chip in Britain's costing 65 quid. You could probably find it cheaper in Britain if you want to. I think in the States it retails for like $75 to $79. Phenomenal value. And I'm really sure Intel have released this in response to what AMD are doing at the moment. So they need something at the low end, at that budget end, that people who just want to play things like CSGO, or maybe, like I said, this thing will play Doom, no problem at 1080p high settings, with an RX 470, with, again, another budget card, and it can keep up with that card. You know, it's not bottlenecking it in the testing that I've seen online. So I'm more excited, I can't believe I'm saying this, on the Intel front, I'm more excited about this little Pentium than anything else, and that just doesn't make sense for me. That's not the way it should be. It's kind of cool that it's like that, though. And it's pretty neat that it is like that. But I would say if you're looking to build a real budget system, or someone's wanting to get into PC gaming and they can't wait for Zen to drop, and you've got some money burning your hole in a pocket just now, £400 is going to build you a machine that's going to kick the arse out of any console out there at the moment. And it's not bad performance. I mean, the thing that people need to remember is that a lot of games, they all say they need 4 core CPUs. Now that game doesn't know whether it's threads or cores, so that if this thing presents the game, a piece of code, the application with 4 usable threads, it's just going to see a quad core. Now there's no denying it that in certain situations this chip does lose out to a true quad core, to the likes of an i5 or something like that, even without hyper-threading. In CPU heavy titles like GTA 5 for instance, it lost out there. And Arma 3, I'm fairly sure this chip would lose out as well. But again, you can't deny the value for money. Bang for bucks there. I mean, it's a great chip. Pardon me guys, just have a drink. A really good chip. And if I was looking to build a budget PC at the moment, like right now, couldn't wait for Zen to drop, I would buy this chip. In fact, one of my friends is having problems with her PC, and I said I'd help her. I was thinking about going down the old Xeon route, the old 5640 or something like that, because it's quad core, 8 threads, and it'll clock up to 4 gigahertz. But man, those X58 boards, they really hold their value, and it's hard to find a cheap, good one. You know, they're all sort of 80, 90 pounds, so you want one that's a decent overclocking board. You know, and fair enough, the chips are only £20 or something like that. But finding one of those boards, and you need good memory as well to get a good overclock, is becoming harder and harder. So I'm almost tempted to say, do you know what? Just bite the bullet, buy one of these, a kind of mid-range sort of board, business board or something like that. You're going to have to pay a bit more for DDR4 now, because the price of memory seems to have gone through the roof. I was looking before Christmas at buying some memory and didn't bother because the price hadn't moved too much, and then I was looking last week, and for some reason the price of memory in Britain at least has gone up by like sort of 25% for some reason on DDR3 of all things. I'm sure they're still manufacturing it, I'm sure it's not just backstock, but anyway, that's a different concern. But yeah, on the one end, Intel at the high end, I don't really understand what they're doing with their product launches. On this end, on the budget end, great job. I think this is a great chip. There should be more stuff like this out there. The days of the Pentium, back in the day when you could beast these things, really, really good chips. For me, this is more innovative than what Intel are doing in their X series chips. I mean, at the high end, to me, they just seem to be following the same old. You know, we're going to release a product every year, and we're going to call it an architectural improvement, whether it is or isn't. And you know, for me, I think Intel would, I would actually prefer it if they just said 1 year we're not going to release a new architecture. Do you know, we're not going to release anything, guys, because we don't think we've got anything that's worth releasing. Yes, we're working on stuff. Here's some, you know, teasers, whatever, but you know, we're not going to bleed you dry anymore. I mean, that's not going to happen because they've got shareholders and they're publicly limited and they're accountable now. And if they did that, their share price would go through the floor, and that's it. You know, that their value would disappear. But I would have more respect for them if they did that. You know, and I'm not saying that's what AMD did. I'm saying if, you know, AMD just got stuck in a cycle of hurt, so they had no choice. They had to kind of work their way out of it. But yeah, I would highly recommend this chip. From what I've read about it and what I can see about it, it's a great little bang for buck chip. So moving on, I've only briefly read this guy, so I don't know the whole thing, but apparently, blah blah blah. Where are we? So Gabe Newell gave a interview podcast out, and he was talking about a number of projects that Valve are working on, including Half-Life 3, and other stuff. Like there's sort of crossovers to film and things mentioned as well. It's kind of a lot to talk about. But it just goes through a lot of stuff like Half-Life 2 Episode 4, and then stuff about, he makes this comment which is quite telling actually. He made a comment in this podcast that he said there's no such thing as Half-Life 3. You can't mention the name 3. Now, I don't really know what that means, but if you've been a gamer for a long time like me and you remember Half-Life, and then you remember Opposing Force, which was amazing, and that's led into CSGO, and then Half-Life 2, and all the rest of it. Yeah, I just wish they'd do something, because they're obviously going to release Half-Life 3. I don't doubt they're going to release Half-Life 3, because there's way too much money involved in it. I mean, they can make so much money out of this. But I just wish they'd stop teasing it, and I wish they would actually just tell us a timeline. A timeline would do me, just like, yes, we're doing this, it's moving on, and this is happening. Because they talk about a whole lot of other stuff in here, like a Portal crossover to a film and things, and you know, the technology is here now. I mean, they always said they were Valve always said they were waiting for technology so that Half-Life 3 could be a different experience. So I think a lot of people thought that meant VR. VR is here, not for the masses, but it is here. So I'd be surprised if we don't start seeing more concrete Half-Life 3 stuff in the next couple of years. But they really need to stop this kind of just, yes, it's happening, no, it's not, no, we're not working on it, blah blah blah. Like, is it gonna happen? Isn't it gonna happen? Because people are gonna get bored of that. Like people have gotten bored of Intel. I mean, there's so much lethargy around Intel at the moment, and Valve need to be careful, because as much love as there is for the Half-Life franchise, eventually people just, you know, you're gonna forget about it and you're gonna move on. And people my age who remember it as kids, sort of, how old was I when Half-Life came out? Like, I was like 16 or something when Half-Life came out. Amazing. Changed my life. Just changed my view of what a game could be and the experience you could have of it. And then with Opposing Force, again, revolutionary, brilliant experience. Map editing, amazing. Local lands with your friends. Laser trip mines stuck to everyone's heads. Brilliant fun. Absolutely fantastic. Loved every minute of it. But, you know, that memory is going to fade over time. And so I think they just, like I say, even if they just gave us a timeline, that would do me. That would be great. I would love that. So, yeah. Oh, Half-Life 3, much love. Great. I really want it to happen. So here's something I noticed just as I was setting up to stream. I was getting my tabs set out. So I've not read this. I don't really know what WCCF Tech are talking about. It's a rumor, but it's Volta, alleged to be launching in 2017 on 12 nanometers. We kind of knew that. They'd always talked about that being the roadmap. It launching into the into the enterprise space, certainly. But we didn't know if there was going to be any trickle down effect into the commercial space where we are. So I've skimmed this, guys. I've really skimmed this. It looks like this is a rumor coming from Fox Business. So I live in the UK, so anything with Fox in front of it, we don't really put a huge amount of credence in it. Unfortunately, that might be totally wrong. I might be completely biased. So if I'm wrong, tell me in the comments that I'm wrong, and I'll go away and I'll look up Fox Business News. But I'm not holding out a good feeling for that one. So this claims that NVIDIA's next generation family of GPUs will succeed Pascal this year in the GPU supercomputing machine space. Well, yep, that's what we knew. And we knew that way back in 2015 when NVIDIA were dishing stuff out. And then it goes on to talk about the refresh, Pascal refresh, which I think we all knew was coming as well. Blah blah blah. Apparently, the 1080 Ti is going to be part of this Pascal refresh, which would make sense. The only difference I can see in this refreshing of the Pascal architecture is that the 70 series cards will get an upgrade from GDDR5 to GDDR5X. That's it. I can't see any other difference between these cards. The main difference in the refresh will be the fact that you should be able to get better clocks, and there'll be a TI version. The reason you'll get better clocks is because the process will have matured, so they will have ironed out all the little problems they had with their FinFET process at the launch of Pascal, so the yield should be going up, purity should be better, hence they should be getting higher clocks, being able to manufacture more chips more cheaply. But yeah, a refresh makes sense to me because there's no way Volta is going to be ready for us until 2018. So yeah, interesting little article. Let's have a look, just make sure I've not missed anything. Like I say, I haven't really. Titan V2, what are they talking about? Same CUDA cores. Memory clock will be slightly faster. Does it really matter? Not really. They talk about Volta being compatible with HBM2, which would be good. I'm not surprised it is. And GDDR6. Haven't really heard a lot about GDDR6. I think I did an article on it last year. It's kind of gone a bit quiet after the Hot Chips conference last year. And that's really it for that. That was just a throw in because I like I say, I just kind of saw it when I was setting up for the article. So for the live stream. So have a look at it. Don't have a look at it. As with everything, treated with a pinch of salt. But yeah, it's quite interesting, and I think it's probably realistic, to be honest, as considering where Nvidia are at the moment. They still really they don't have any competition from AMD. Vega looks impressive, but really there's nothing on the ground for Vega. Even at CES and at AMD's own kind of Zen sort of launch thing in December, it's pretty obvious that Vega is still in engineering phase. They don't have production cards, so I can't imagine Vega is going to be here until second half of 2017. In fact, God, it's 2017 now. Yeah, so Nvidia really don't have anything to worry about. And I think as soon as Vega's released, they'll drop the 1080 Ti. That's what they've done in the past. As soon as AMD release a new card that's beating out the 80 series cards, they just drop the TI version and, blow it out the water. Anyway, back to Nintendo, where we started, guys. So Nintendo. I love Nintendo. My love is being tested at the moment, and I'll tell you for why. So I've got a quite high spec machine. I've got a 1440p panel, and I've got a 4K panel. My 1440p panel, I'm used to playing at 144 Hz. Although most of the time, a lot of the time, sometimes I'll play at 1080p downscaled on the 4K panel, or 1440p downscaled on the 4K panel, because it looks so nice. The pixel density is so high. So I have an expectation. I have a gaming experience expectation. I think most people do that are going to buy this product. I think a lot of the sales for this Nintendo Switch product are going to come from people like me. There's that nostalgia thing going on, and they really want to buy a console. I've had a discussion with quite a few of my friends, and we really want to buy a console that isn't built by Microsoft or Sony. We would love to go back to one of the original players out there, and as Sega isn't in the game anymore, it's Nintendo, so I would love to buy this Nintendo. However, there are some major issues for me. So let's have a look at this article. I'm going to have to turn my head, guys, to read it on the other screen. Sorry about that, because I can't remember all the stats. So basically, it's using a Tegra processor, so it's using the final iteration of Maxwell in Tegra, which I think is the first mistake. I think they should have waited for Pascal. In the article, they talk about it pulling some things out of the Pascal architecture and being bolted onto it, and these guys, this article's on Eurogamer.net, and basically they make the conclusion that there's no real difference between the Maxwell Tegra chip and the Pascal Tegra chip that's coming. And I think that's a big mistake. They're different. They're completely different architectures. It's like they're different, basically. So that's the first mistake I think they've made. So the second mistake I think they've made is, where are we now? So where are the actual specs? So yeah, so undocked and docked, the CPU runs at just over a gig, which seems a bit slow to me. GPU speeds undocked and docked are pretty much the same. Apart from when it's docked, it looks like it'll boost up to 768 megahertz from 307 megahertz. Again, not great. I would have liked to have seen it around the gigahertz point. Memory speeds, available memory controller speeds, not really bothered because it's a console. It's not going to need to shift huge amounts of data quickly. So yeah, kind of disappointed with that. Don't really agree with what Eurogamer are talking about down here. You know, when they talk about clocks and things like that, and especially up here when they're talking about the architecture of the chip. Now, my main bugbear with this is resolution. Now, a lot of people are saying resolution doesn't matter, man. It's Zelda. Resolution doesn't matter. It's going to be amazing. It does matter. It matters a lot. So, undocked, this thing's going to run at 720p. It's just like, come on, guys. Like, and then docked, it's going to run at 900p. Not tight. Blah, 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 blah. Where is it now? It says it here somewhere. They might be not mentioning that in this article, but there's there's a few articles online where people have had their hands on this thing, and it runs at 900p essentially. Yeah. So for me, that's unacceptable. Maybe 720p undocked is okay. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how much After Effects processing is going to be on this thing. So maybe I could deal with 720p undocked. Although having said that, my phone's got a 1080p screen in it, so I don't really see the problem with that. It's a low power chip. They could get away with it. And then docked. When it's docked, this is the worst thing of all. So when it's docked, it doesn't even run at 1080p. I mean, what the hell? What? Why? Why would you do that? And there are other things people are talking about. Like up here, they talk about the connectivity and, you know, it's being limited and it can't output 4K. Who cares? Who wants 4K at 30 hertz? I'll tell you what gamers want. Gamers want 1080p at 60 hertz. That's what I want. I want to play Zelda at 1080p at 60 hertz on my TV, or maybe on one of my panels, or I want to play a new Mario game at 1080p at 60 hertz. I don't want to play it at 900. I certainly don't want to play it at 720, although undocked maybe I could get used to that. But yeah, I don't know. I think for the price, for 280 pounds is quite a lot of money to pay for something that can't hit 1080p. I mean, what is it with consoles and the manufacturers of consoles just totally thinking they can get away with just not having native 1080p support? I mean, it took Microsoft and Sony so many generations to get native 1080p support. You know, and now they're toting this 4K support. It's not 4K, it's upscale 1080p. It's not native 4K. People should know that before they go into it. But I mean, Nintendo, like, thumbs up for releasing Zelda with the machine. If they release Zelda with the machine for £280, I'll buy it. If I have to pay over £300 for like a Nintendo Switch and Zelda, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not paying £300 plus to play a game at 900p. And I don't know what the frame rate's going to be. I would hope to God the frame rate would be maxing out the refresh rate of the TV. It should be at 900p. I mean, Zelda is not exactly graphically taxing. I mean, people are buying it for the storyline, because the storyline looks amazing. But yeah, that's my rant about Nintendo over. It was very hard to rant about Nintendo, because I love Nintendo. I've loved Nintendo for a very long time. But yeah, I kind of worry. A lot of people I know that are big Nintendo fans like me were so excited about the Switch. Like, really excited. I would have taken all the criticism in the world from my gaming friends who play on PC, and I wouldn't have cared. And I would have said, I don't care because I love my Switch. But now a lot of us are having the same thought. We're not pre-ordering. Normally, I would pre-order something like this. N64, I pre-ordered one. I mean, God knows where I got the money from. I was so young. Um, GameCube, pre-ordered it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, ah. So normally I'd be pre-ordering this and I'd just be waiting for it to arrive now, and I'd be like really excited about this. So yeah, I'm mixed emotions about the Switch. I hope it does well for Nintendo's sake. I think they deserve something to go well. I think if they go down this route, I imagine what they're going to do is they'll probably launch this product, leave it for 6 to 12 months, and then refresh it in the same way that Microsoft and Sony have refreshed theirs, but they'll do a refresh quicker with the Pascal architecture Tegra chip. I think they should have waited for that before going into manufacture, but they had to get something to market, so I understand that as well. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that a lot of this stuff that's been released so far about it might be a little bit incorrect, and then with driver optimization and things like that, they can squeeze 1080p out of it. But if they squeeze 1080p out of it at the expense of frame rate, I won't be happy about that either. So I mean, it's not that hard. 1080p is not that hard to achieve these days, guys. It's easy. So that's the stream over, guys. Like I said, sorry about last night. Sorry I wasn't here. But you know, real life took over. So yeah, I had to deal with some other things. Had some technical issues with the kit as well. So that's that. So I'm gonna wrap this up. If there aren't any questions, if you know, feel free to ask questions about anything. But if you guys don't have any questions, I'll wrap it up and I'll catch you again next Sunday. Or leave questions in the comments and I'll pick them up as they come in during the week. So I'll leave the stream running for like a couple of minutes, guys. And but if you don't have any questions, I'll just go ahead and wrap it up. So you guys don't have any questions? No questions, guys? Well, alright guys, well I'm gonna wrap it up. Cheers, Jake. That's someone I know in the chat. Thank you, JK. Okay guys, well I'm gonna wrap this one up just now, so I'm just gonna end this